island in Lake Superior. It's off the northeast tip of Minnesota, although technically it's part of the state of Michigan. The island is 45 miles long, 9 miles wide, and along with hundreds of smaller islands and surrounding waters, it becomes the Isle Royale National Park. Late last week, the National Park Service closed tent campsites at 3 Mile Campground until the end of the month. It's fully prohibiting tent and hammock use because of a wolf spotted going into tents, dragging away backpacks. Joining me now to talk about this is Liz Valencia, the acting administrative officer at Isle Royale National Park. Thank you for taking some time here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. This is interesting. You know, obviously the wolf population at Isle Royale is something that is constantly tracked. You want to make sure that there's a healthy pack of wolves there. That population has been rebounding. It's somewhere, is it around 37 now in that pack?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
And so obviously that's good news. But the bad news is when you see a wolf, or maybe it's more than one, behaving in a way that may be threatening to people camping there.
That's the problem that we're having right now. We want wolves to be afraid of humans when they see them. We want them to just run off if they come to a campground and there are people there, or if they're walking along the trail and a person is hiking along. We want the wolf to be afraid, and generally they are. Usually a wolf will just take off if they see humans, but unfortunately for the last couple years we have had a wolf, possibly a couple wolves, that have taken more of an interest in humans, and they've come to the point where they're not really afraid of us anymore. They've become habituated to being around humans, and they have been checking out campgrounds. They've been in and out of campgrounds, and that's what led us to closing the tent sites at 3 Mile Campground. So I just wanted to stress that this is part of one campground, and it is focused on tent use right now because of an incident we did have with a wolf getting into tents, dragging things away from tents in a couple times, and over the weekend, in the middle of the night, of course, at 3 Mile Campground.
Yeah, what is the kind of the population of campers on Isle Royale and in that campground in terms of how many are typically there, what percentage are in tents versus a hard-sided camper?
Are familiar with Isle Royale, we do have what we call camping shelters, and those are a 3-sided wood cabin with a screen front, and there are 8 of those at 3 Mile Campground. There are also 4 individual tent camping sites, and some of the sites that get the most use are actually the group campsites. We have a few campsites at some campgrounds that are a bit larger that can accommodate groups up to 10 people. So yeah, that's what we have. So parties of 6 can stay in the shelters. So it has, for the last, since we put in the closure in place, it has limited the number of people who can stay at 3 Mile because we don't have access to the 4 individual tent sites or to the 2 group sites.
Got it. And so this closure until the end of July, and in the meantime, you're working on trying to, I guess, haze the wolves. I mean, explain what the process is now to try to make sure that that concern or that threat is gone once we hit August.
Yeah, we're spending time now. Basically, hazing is discouraging wolves from coming around. So there's a lot of different tools we can use to haze wolves. One thing we do patrols with park staff, and we do have some park staff that have taken training and they're authorized to use paintball guns. So we can use those. If a wolf comes into the campground, can actually fire the paintball guns at it. So we have that option. We also just have some basic options that we also have visitors do: yelling, clapping, shouting at the wolf, trying to chase it out of the campground. Our staff will do that as well. Then we also use other noise-making devices, so air horns we've used. We also have motion sensor noise-making devices that send out an alarm, and also flashing lights. So if we put flashing lights in a campground, they're motion activated as well. So if a wolf comes into the campsite in the night and then the lights flash, and then that's another method of trying to get the wolves to leave the campground. Really, our goal is if a wolf comes into a campground, We don't want there to be any available snacks, any food out, anything that would be tempting for the wolf. We want the wolf to just come into the campground and leave the campground and not hang around.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Nothing to see here, nothing to take back. There was a photo of a wolf carrying away a backpack. Was that something that was recent? Obviously, that's of a concern too. I mean, if they're that comfortable that they're taking a backpack out of a tent and trotting away with it.
Yeah, tracking away backpacks. There was a game camera photo that we provided on a social media post with the wolf that was carrying away a dry bag. And we do have food storage lockers. So the person that had the dry bag of food should have put that dry bag in the food storage locker. So we have food storage lockers at all the campgrounds. We also have visitors need to put food in there, or they need to put them in those hard-sided animal-proof containers.
Okay. Lastly, how rare is it for wolves to exhibit this kind of behavior?
I don't know how rare it is. It isn't something that happens frequently at Isle Royale, so it is rare here. Wildlife habituation is a problem in a number of parks. A lot of times it's bears, not wolves. I do remember some wolves, it's probably been 15 or 20 years ago, that were interested in the fall in eating some apples at one of our campgrounds. And we did have a little bit of a problem with that for a few weeks. But generally, this issue started with us in about the middle of 2024. And we've been working on additional food storage and trash management to try to deal with it since then.
All right. Well, hopefully those efforts work, and hopefully that closure doesn't extend beyond the end of the month. All right.
I hope so too.
Yeah, Liz, thank you so much for taking time today to discuss Isle Royale and the
Thank you.
The friendly wolves there. Thanks so much.